Hello and welcome to this Beyond Exploring session as we continue our trawl through the Antonio and Mellida, continued, as it were, as we enter Antonio's Revenge in earnest. Both plays by John Marston, and they are effectively part one and part two of an ongoing saga. I don't know if it's a soap opera or something completely different. Opinions vary as to what precise level of hell we have entered. As time passes, we are increasingly heading towards something that is more and more like Red Dead Redemption, the other John Marston that is available. I am your host, Robert Crighton, and truly I am as nimble as an elephant about a lady. Or that is the fun quote we found yesterday from Balurdo. We are going to be working through Act 2 and Act 3 of the play today, so we are rattling now towards the end. The story so far: the Duke Piero has turned out to be evil. He was a bit evil in part one, but now he's definitely super evil. He has killed Antonio's dad and claimed that he just died of happiness. He's also killed the courtier from the first play, Feliche, whose body has been hung outside the bedroom of Antonio's love, Mellida. And the allegation being that Feliche was having it away with Mellida and was killed for this. Lots of machinations and plots and things have occurred. And that's about as much detail as you are going to get. We have, however, a fantastic team in the room, virtually, to take us through this play. We may have a late incoming addition, so just be warned, some faces may pop up as we go along. But otherwise, this is the team that we have today. So reading Balurdo, he of the elephantine hands, and the ghost of Andrugio is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I'm based in Suffolk.
And reading Pandulpho and the vitally important second page is...
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm an actor, director and writer based in Germany.
And reading the villainous Piero is...
Hi, I'm William Sutton. I'm an actor. I'm based in Amsterdam.
And reading Alberto and Mariah is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and currently in Yorkshire.
And reading Mellida for the second time this week, first page, Nutriche and Julio is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor. I produce sometimes, and I am usually based in London, but at the moment I'm stuck in Germany.
And reading the title character of Revenge fame, reading Antonio is...
Hey there, my name's Simon Nader, and I'm an actor, writer and director, and I am based in Hertfordshire.
And new to the group, so be kind, everyone. Welcome into the throng and this madness. Boy, have you chosen a play to dip your toes into. Reading Strotzo and the Ghost of Feliche is...
Hi, I'm Veronica. I'm a wannabe historian based in London.
Fabulous. We may have another reader coming in later to read Lucio and for Bosco, but for the moment I will be reading those parts as well as stage directions. So, Act 1 ended, shall we say, somewhat lamentably. And Act 2, Scene 1, opens with a dumb show. So, the cornets sound a senate. Enter two mourners with torches, two with streamers, Castilio and Forabosco with torches, a herald bearing Andrugio's helm and sword, the coffin, Mariah supported by Lucio and Alberto, Antonio by himself, Piero and Strotzo talking, Galerzo and Maggiorente, Balurdo and Pandulpho. The coffin is set down. Helm, sword and streamers hung up, placed by the herald, whilst Antonio and Mariah wet their handkerchiefs with their tears, kiss them, and lay them on the hearse, kneeling. All go out but Piero. The cornets cease, and he speaks.
Rot there. thou sear cloth that enfolds the flesh of my loathed foe. Moulder to crumbling dust. Oblivion choke the passage of thy fame. Trophies of honored birth drop quickly down. Let naught of him but what was vicious live. Though thou art dead, think not my hate is dead. I have but newly twone my arm in the curled locks of snaky vengeance. Pale, beetle-browed hate but newly bustles up. Sweet wrong, I clap thy thoughts. Oh, let me hug thy bosom, rub thy breast in hope of what may hap. Andrugio rots. Antonio lives. How long? How long? Antonio packed hence, I'll his mother wed. Then clear my daughter of supposed lust, wed her to Florence heir. Oh, excellent. Venice, Genoa, Florence at my beck, at Piero's nod. Balurdo, oh ho! Oh, 'twill be rare, all unsuspected done. I have been nursed in blood, and still have sucked the steam of reeking gore. Balurdo, ho!
Enter Balurdo with a beard half on, half off.
When my beard is on, most noble prince, when my beard is on,
Why, what dost thou with a beard?
in truth, one told me that my wit was bold, and that a mermaid was half fish and half fish. And therefore, to speak wisely, like one of your counsel, as indeed it hath pleased you to make me, not only being a fool of your counsel, but also to make me of your counsel being a fool. If my wit be bold, and my mermaid be half fish and half conger, then I must be forced to conclude the tiring man hath not glued on my beard half fast enough. Cosh pause, it will not stick to fall off.
Dost thou know what thou hast spoken all this while?
O Lord Duke, I would be sorry of that. Many men can utter that which no man but themselves can conceive, but I thank a good wit. I have the gift to speak that which neither any man else nor myself understands.
Thou art wise. He that speaks he knows not what shall never sin against his own conscience. Go to, thou art wise.
Wise? Oh no, I have a little natural discretion or so, but for wise, I'm somewhat prudent. But for wise, oh Lord!
Hold, take those keys, open the castle vault, and put in Madame Mellida.
I put in Mellida? Well, let me alone.
Bid for a Bosco and Castillo guard, endear thyself Piero's intimate.
Endear and intimate. Good, I assure you, I will endear and intimate Mellida into the dungeon presently.
Will Pandulpho Feliche wait on me?
I will make him come, most retort and obtuse to you presently. I think Sir Geoffrey talks like a counsellor. Go to, cod sneaks, I think I tickle it.
I'll seem to wind yon fool with kindest arm. He that's ambitious-minded and but man must have his followers beasts, damned slavish sots, whose service is obedience, and whose wit reacheth no further than to admire their lord and stare in adoration of his worth. I loathe a slave, raked out of common mud, should seem to sit in council with my heart. High-honored bloods too squeamish to assent and lend a hand to an ignoble act. Poisoned from roses, who could e'er abstract?
And he's interrupted, but we'll come to that interruption in just a moment because we have a series of sort of conversations with Piero, which I think we should just briefly touch on this one. I don't know if anyone remembers some beard business that we had in the Spanish tragedy, and the connections here with what kind of role Balurdo is playing. We talked about the possible connection with Hieronymo and Pandulpho last time. This feels like someone's definitely doing some Hieronymo cosplay, or some Balthazar cosplay, perhaps.
I am sticking by my unpopular theory of yesterday, though. Actually, I am sure that Balurdo is meant to be a fool. I mean, like a proper fool.
Well, he's being deliberately comic, not just an idiot.
Yeah, I there's a different. I know I can see the parallels with Balthazar, but like I don't know, so much of the wordplay is so tricksy. I don't think I know he was a foolish courtier in the first play, but I think in this he's actually taken on the mantle of being an actual fool. I think, for what it's worth, maybe.
I'm not sold on it.
No,
I know. I'm
no,
not
I
sold
know,
on it, but
I know
I
know you're not, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay quietly with my theory and just
No.
I mean,
It's there. We're allowed to disagree.
Yeah.
There are multiple kind of references to fools as the play goes on, though, because obviously even Antonio ends up wearing a fool's kind of costume. Piero, if you gave it a different spelling, would give you another reading of it. So there may be something in that.
They're all fools, perhaps. They're all fools.
Maybe, yeah.
I just want to talk about the Piero from the top. I just love bits of his speech where he's sort of going, what shall I do now? It's really nicely done. Again, we were talking about how people interrupt themselves and do weird noises and the way the text is written to sort of allow that play. And that it's all the way through this speech, isn't it? He knows he's evil. He's playing being evil.
That was a delicious speech.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, any additional thoughts before we move on to dialogue number 2, which I think we can structure this particular scene as a series of dialogues.
Well, the only thing is that the bit that you mentioned before we came live, which is the Balurdo's first decent length speech, where it's the mermaid was half fish and half fish, which is as printed in the original. By context, probably half fish and half conger is what should have appeared, as it does later in the speech.
Yeah. Oh, if we're talking about someone with a beard who's trying to stick on a beard, then it sort of makes sense in that sense, doesn't it?
Eels were characterized as fish.
Yeah. Yes,
And they were a staple of diet as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh yes. They were usually sold with freshwater fish.
Okay. Any additional eel thoughts or mermaid thoughts? Okay, we will move on to the entrance of Pandulpho. So, to the evil Piero who announces the entrance helpfully for us.
How now, Pandulpho? Weeping for thy son?
No, Piero. Weeping for my sins. Had I been a good father, he had been a gracious son.
Pollution must be purged.
Why taint'st thou then the air with stench of flesh and human putrefaction's noisome scent? I pray his body, who less boon can crave than to bestow upon the dead his grave?
Grave? Why thinkst thou he deserves a grave that hath defiled the temple of...
Peace! Methinks I hear a humming murmur creep from out his jellied wounds. Look on those lips, those now lorn pillows on whose tender softness, chaste, modest speech, stealing from out his breast, hath wont to rest itself, as loath to post from out so fair an inn. Look, they seem to stir, and breathe defiance to black obliquity.
Thinkst thou thy son could suffer wrongfully?
A wise man wrongfully, but never wrong can take. His breasts of such well-tempered proof it may be raised, not pierced by savage tooth of foaming malice. Showers of darts may dark heaven's ample brow, but not strike out a spark, much less pierce the sun's cheek. Such songs as these I often dittied till my boy did sleep, but now I turn plain fool. Alas, I weep.
For heaven, he makes me shrug. Would I were dead. He's a virtuous man. What has our court to do with virtue in the devil's name? Pandulpho, hark. My lustful daughter dies. Start not, she dies. I pursue justice. I love sanctity and an undefiled temple of pure thoughts. Shall I speak freely? Good Andrugio's dead, and I do fear a fetch, but would I dare speak? I do mistrust, but death is he. Oh man, hath he no part of mother in him, huh? No licorice womanish inquisitiveness?
Andrugio's dead.
Aye, and I fear his own unnatural blood, to whom he gave life, hath given death for life. How could he come on? I see false suspect is viced, wrung hardly in a virtuous heart. Well, I could give you reason for my doubts. You are of honoured birth, my very friend. You know how godlike 'tis to root out sin. Antonio is a villain. Will you join in oath with me against the traitor's life, and swear you knew he sought his father's death? I loved him well, yet I love justice more. Our friends we should affect, justice adore.
My lord, the clapper of my mouth's not glibbed with court oil. 'Twill not strike on both sides yet.
'Tis just that subjects act commands of kings.
Command then just and honourable things.
Even so, myself then will traduce his guilt.
Beware, take heed lest guiltless blood be spilt.
Where only honest deeds to kings are free, it is no empire, but a beggary.
Where no more than noble deeds to kings are free, it is no empire, but a tyranny.
Tush, juiceless greybeard. 'Tis immunity proper to princes that our state exacts. Our subjects not alone to bear, but praise our acts.
Oh, but that prince that worthful praise aspires, from hearts and not from lips applause desires.
Pish! True praise the brow of common men doth wring. False only girts the temple of a king. He that hath strength and is ignorant of power, he was not made to rule, but to be ruled.
'Tis praise to do not what we can, but should.
Hence, doting stoic. By my hope of bliss, I'll make thee wretched.
Defiance to thy power! Thou rifted John, now by the loved heaven, sooner thou shalt rinse thy foul ribs from the black filth of sin that soots thy heart, than make me Richard. Pish! Thou canst not coop me up. Hadst thou a jail with treble walls, like antique Babylon, Pandulpho can get out? I tell thee, Duke, I have old Fortunatus' wishing cap, and can be where I list, even in a trice. I'll skip from earth into the arms of heaven, and from triumphal arch of blessedness spit on thy frothy breast. Thou canst not slave or banish me. I will be free at home, maugre the beard of greatness. The portholes of sheathed spirits are ne'er corbed up, but still stand open, ready to discharge their precious shot into the shrouds of heaven.
Oh, torture! Slave, I banish thee to town, thy native seat of birth.
Oh, how proud thou speak'st. I tell thee, Duke, the blast of the swoln-cheeked winds, nor all the breath of kings can puff me out of my native seat of birth. The earth's my body's, and the heavens my soul's most native place of birth, which they will keep despite the menace of mortality. Why, Duke, that's not my native place where I was rocked. A wise man's home is wheresoe'er he is wise. Now that from man, not from the place, doth rise.
Would I were deaf! Oh, plague! Hence, dotard wretch! Tread not in court, all that thou hast, I seize. His quiet's firmer than I can disease.
Go. Boast unto thy flattering sycophants, Pandulpho's slave Piero hath o'erthrown. Loose fortune's rags are lost. My own's my own.
Piero going out looks back.
'Tis true, Piero, thy vexed heart shall see. Thou hast but tripped my slave, not conquered me.
And they exit. Isn't that a wonderful little
What a
couplet at the
scene.
end there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, well, that's the fool device again, isn't it? That is the device of the fool.
Oh, yeah, true.
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on there. I love the way that Piero goes. I'm just going to pause here for you to jump in. This is your cue to interrupt me. Okay, he's not getting the hint. I really love that. Okay, just for clarity, what precisely is Piero trying to get Pandulpho to say? What does he want out of this exchange?
It seems to me that he wants Pandulpho to start spreading lies, rumours, fake news about Antonio. My reaction to Pandolfo's speech is that it's almost the longest suicide note we've had so far. Given the way Piero's basically gone blood crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that Piero is going to banish him, and you're off, and his threat. He goes from being very wheedling to very aggressive. So is that precisely what he's saying in terms of Piero? What are you trying to get him to say?
That Antonio killed Andrugio.
Exactly.
Because that's my only problem with this is I actually found that the pertinent point was sort of slipping off my radar. I knew he was trying to persuade him something, but I wasn't holding a fast onto what he was actually saying.
But it starts with something that really surprised me, which is that Felice's body is still hanging there, rotting.
Yeah, and he actually has to ask if he can cut him down and bury him, which is just like...
which is refused.
Yeah.
And this means that the entire burial of Andrugio takes place under the rotting corpse of Feliche. I must assume.
Yeah, it seems to be. It's a sort of Antigone quality to this.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Piero from the conversation, from the two conversations, I mean, he starts with that he's looking for servants whose service is obedient, whose wit reaches no further than to admire their lord. And then he goes through sort of line by line explaining what a bad ruler is like. I mean, this is a classic description of bad government.
And we're not going to go into any detail about whether there are any modern political resonances that this might match, because we're not going to go there. We'll just take it as read.
Turning orange, yeah.
Yeah. The length of Piero's tie is irrelevant.
To be honest, I was thinking of Boris Johnson.
I also think, and it's obviously completely inappropriate, but pollution must be purged, and sort of going, well, that's climate change.
Drain the swamp.
Yes.
Or at least.
And it's also that slight resonance with Schubert's deliberate with Spanish tragedy of this question of justice and getting justice, and which runs throughout this scene. It's a really interesting thing. We have this moment at the beginning of this dumb show, this visual spectacle, and then it narrows down to these two contrasting conversations, and the difference between Balurdo and Pandulpho. And
the other thing that doesn't come over strongly enough is that Mellida is Piero's daughter.
Yeah. And he's having her taken down to the dungeons.
Yeah.
And he wants her killed.
Well, we don't know that.
No, he doesn't. He does say he wants to clear her name. He's got to find a way of getting her back in favour and then marry her off, isn't it?
Yes, right? He's going to marry her to the Florentine prince.
But doesn't he say, where is it? Because I thought it confused me, that line. Where is it?
I'm sure he says to Pandulpho. He
says, Antonio packed hence, I'll his mother wed, then clear my daughter of supposed lust.
Yeah.
a wedder to Florence air.
No, but then he says, Pandulpho, hark, my lustful daughter dies, start not she dies, I pursue justice.
Yes, but he's not necessarily telling the truth there.
No,
Oh,
I
well,
think
yeah.
he's lying through
Yeah.
his teeth right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Piero knows what truth is at this stage.
Veronica, as our very much outsider to the group and also to this play, and Simon as well to some degree, how are you finding this first scene that you've discovered?
Just put you on the spot.
That's a perfectly legitimate response.
Yeah, no, I like the conversations going on between the two different sets of conversations going on. I like you were saying, I like how the speeches get broken up with the ums.
Yeah. It has a really nice dynamic range of what's going on. People aren't just making speeches and then stopping. There's give and take. Okay. Any additional thoughts on this particular scenette before we move forward into the next exciting installment of this adventure?
I have a bad feeling about Pandulpho.
Yeah.
I haven't read ahead, but I just,
He's another one I wouldn't sell life insurance to.
No. He's a goner.
Well, it depends if he goes into exile, but I have a feeling he won't.
No.
Yeah, they never do though, do they? They
No,
never
do
take
they?
the good advice.
Exactly. I told him. I warned him. I gave him the chance to be banished. He's not going to take it.
Unless he comes back with an army.
Oh yeah,
possible.
that could
Possible.
happen. Yeah.
Okay. We're into scene 2 of Act 2. So enter Antonio in black. I think he is wearing black underneath his shirt. With a book.
Almost.
Also Lucio and Alberto.
Nay, sweet, be comforted. Take counsel and...
Alberto, peace. That grief is wanton sick, whose stomach can digest and brook the diet of stale, ill-relished counsel. Pygmy cares can shelter under patience' shield, but giant griefs will burst all covert.
My lord, 'tis supper time.
Drink deep, Alberto. Eat, good Lucio, but my pined heart shall eat on naught but woe.
My lord, we dare not leave you thus alone.
You cannot leave Antonio alone. The chamber of my breast is even thronged with firm attendants that forswears to flinch. I have a thing that sits here. It is not grief, 'tis not despair, nor the utmost plague that the most wretched are infected with, for the most griefful, most despairing, wretched, accursed, miserable. Oh, for heaven's sake, forsake me now. You see how light I am, and yet you force me to defame my patience.
Fair, gentle prince.
Away, thy voice is hateful. Thou dost buzz and beat my ears with intimations that Mellida is light and stained with adulterous luxury. I cannot brook. I tell thee, Lucio, sooner will I give faith that virtue's cant in princes' courts will be adorned with wreath of choice respect and endeared intimate. Sooner will I believe that friendship's reign will curb ambition from utility than Mellida is light. Alas, poor soul, didst e'er see her? Good heart, hast heard her speak? Kind soul, incredulity itself would not be so brass-hearted as suspect so modest cheeks.
My lord.
Away, a self-sown guilt doth only hatch distrust, but a chaste thought's as far from doubt as lust. I entreat you, leave me.
Will you endeavour to forget your grief?
If faith, I will, good friend, if faith, I will. I'll comminate with you. Alberto, see, I am taking physic. Here's philosophy. Good, honest, leave me. I'll drink wine anon.
Since you enforce us, fair prince, we are gone.
Exeunt Alberto and Lucio. Antonio reads.
Ferti fortiter. I'm going to murder this Latin. Sorry, it didn't really come up in my state school. Hoc est quo deum antecedatis. Il enim extra patientiam malorum of vos supra. Contemnite dolorium. Aut solvetur aut solvet. Blah, 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 blah. Contemnite fortunam nullum tellum quo feret animum habet. Pish! Thy mother was not so lately widowed, thy dear affied love lately defamed with blemish of foul lust when thou wrotest thus. Thou, wrapped in furs, breaking thy limbs for fires, forbidst the frozen zone to shudder. 'Tis naught but foamy bubbling of a fleamy brain, naught else but smoke. Oh, what dank marish spirit but would be fired with impatience at my... No more, no more. He that was never blessed with height of birth, fair expectation of mounted fortunes, knows not what it is to be the pitied object of the world. Oh, poor Antonio, thou mayest sigh.
Ay, me.
And curse.
Black powers!
And cry.
Oh, heaven!
And close laments with...
Oh, me, most miserable.
Woe for my dear, dear son.
Woe for my dear, dear husband.
Woe for my dear, dear love.
Woe for me all. Close all your woes in me, Antonio. How with these sounds? I can see nothing. Grief's invisible and lurks in secret angles of the heart. Come, sigh again. Antonio bears his part.
I'm just going to pause there before we go further into the text. All of these cries that we've had are off stage or under the stage or behind the stage. They're the general laments of everyone who's been wronged within the court around Antonio. I'm assuming that the dialogue that's coming up comes with an entrance. I cannot believe that Mellida is going to do all the speechifying that we have here from off stage. It seems that this is,
like
but there is in this edition no indication of when the entrance happens.
Could it be from a stage trap?
I doubt it.
Well, no,
I mean, it may enter from below the stage, but I don't imagine they go.
No, I was thinking more of a gracing, rising.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that could be that. There's the dialogue. Hopefully, will give us some clues. The idea of voices from off, from lamenting from underneath the stage or calling out cries, because of course you will be all sorely tempted to mention things that I'm not going to let you mention. And
I can't think what you mean.
Yeah, there'll be listeners at home, viewers at home, who will be thinking of some interesting parallels with potential plays available. Obviously, there is a play, possibly by Thomas Kidd, called Hamlet that you may know of, which sadly we don't have. So we can infer that there's some connection with some of this action to that play. And there may be some also connection with some other play that's connected to it, but opinions vary. That's having my cake and eating it. How did that go?
Not bad.
Progressively harder as we read.
Yeah.
It's a fair definition of hypocrisy.
Yes, thank you. But we're not going to go any further with that.
You could have used
any thoughts about Antonio and his speechifying, and poor Lucio once again doing the game of getting cut off. How was it for you, Antonio?
Apart from the Latin, which is the stuff of nightmares for me, Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have read it, so I kind of know where it's going. But just for me, it's more about I'm thinking more about the weird kind of fluidity of the staging, because there are certain, the trapdoor thing to me is not unlikely, perhaps, because there's loads of devices as you have seen and we'll see later, with it all being a show anyway, and people being on stage and not being able to hear and drifting back, drifting forth. So I think for me the interest is in how the hell this was staged, or what kind of overarching theme is. But yeah, and Antonio is very reminiscent of someone that we can't name, as you've said, and I think that's probably the driving thing that we'll all have in our minds now.
Yes, well, there are other figures who might be trapped underneath some sort of a grate available at this time.
Can I?
Yes, Sarah.
Sorry, Mellida's in the dungeon.
That's why she's underneath the stage.
So, so maybe this is all done from off in some way, either below or wherever. But maybe she doesn't enter. Maybe it is all.
Maybe.
Perhaps there's at the side, perhaps there's a view into the dungeon.
Yep.
Or is she is she going to escape?
Well, let's find out. I think we're possibly speculating before some additional data that may be in the upcoming text may help answer these questions.
There's also just one last thing, just on the if you think that the last line where we start as well is, so again, Antonio bears his part. So you could see that the part in a relationship, but also part in a theatrical sense, which might well lead credence to exactly what you guys have said, where I think it's probably out to front and not necessarily kind of converging. So it's just, for me, it's all about kind of the theatricality of the piece itself, and possibly how some powers puppeteering people as a possibility.
Yes, there is a real sense of, you are trapped within the conventions of revenge tragedy, rather than this is a revenge tragedy.
Somewhat.
It does also remind me of when he says, or rather the player playing Antonio says, "Oh, the play makes me play the Amazon and Antonio," and it's really confusing in the prequel, so to speak.
Yes, who am I? What is the tone? What is the genre? What is the mode that this play is playing? And it does play around with what it's playing a lot. Okay. Antonio, do some sighing before Mellida starts speaking.
I'm out of coffee.
Oh, here is a vent to pass my sighs. I have surcharged the dungeon with my plaints. Prison and heart will burst if void of vent. Aye, that is Phoebe, empress of the night, that gins to mount. O chastest deity, if I be false to my Antonio, if the least soil of lust smears my pure love, make me more wretched, make me more accursed than infamy, torture, death, hell, and heaven can bound with amplest power of thought. If not, purge my poor heart from defamation's blot.
Purge my poor heart from defamation's blot. Poor heart, how like her virtuous self she speaks. Mellida, dear Mellida, it is Antonio. Slink not away, 'tis thy Antonio.
How found you out, my love? Alas, I know 'tis easy in this age to find out woe. I have a suit to you.
What is't, dear soul?
Kill me. In faith I'll wink, not stir a jot. For God's sake, kill me. In sooth, loved youth, I am much injured. Look, see how I creep. I cannot wreak my wrong, but sigh and weep.
May I be cursed, but I credit thee.
Tomorrow I must die.
Alas, for what?
For loving thee. 'Tis true, my sweetest breast, I must die falsely, so must thou, dear heart. Nets are a knitting to entrap thy life. Thy father's death must make a paradise to my, I shame to call him father. Tell me, sweet, shall I die thine? Dost love me still and still?
I do.
Then welcome heaven's will.
Madam, I will not swell like a tragedian in forced passion of affected strains. If I had present power of aught but pitying you, I would be as ready to redress your wrongs as to pursue your love. Throngs of thoughts crowd for their passage. Somewhat I will do. Reach me thy hand. Think this is honour's bent to live unslaved, to die innocent.
Let me entreat a favour, gracious love. Be patient, see me die, good, do not weep. Go sup, sweet chuck, drink, and securely sleep.
I' faith I cannot, but I'll force my face to palliate my sickness.
Give me thy hand. Peace on thy bosom dwell. That's all my woe can breathe. Kiss. Thus farewell.
Farewell. My heart is great of thoughts. Stay, dove, and therefore I must speak. But what? Oh, love, by this white hand... No more. Read in these tears what crushing anguish thy Antonio bears.
Antonio kisseth Mellida's hand, then Mellida goes from the grate.
Good night, good heart.
Thus heat from blood, thus souls from bodies part.
So, just pause there. So, yes, there's a grate somewhere. And it was hinted that she was underneath the stage, from beneath. So maybe that's where it is. Hand, just a hand doing gestures with the dialogue, perhaps. Very pausey. Lots of room for pauses and reactions in the dialogue. It's built in, isn't it? Be patient, see me die. Good, do not weep. There's room for reaction and hints for what Antonio should be doing. Is he weeping enough? Be patient, see me die. Good.
No.
Do not weep. Weep in your own time.
Yeah, and he's like, I won't.
Yes, he's a bit stoic at times, isn't he?
It's a change of character, though, isn't it? I mean, he wasn't exactly known early on for his stoicism.
He kept sleeping on the ground.
Right?
Yeah.
There's one of those comes up again later, I think.
Oh, yes, there's some flinging around. I don't think he is actually very stoic. I think he's probably tears all over the place.
Yeah, he's Italian, come on.
Yeah.
I must say I'm very worried by the staging of this, because if you've just got a hand coming up through a grate or something, the audience are going to laugh.
But then that might be the point.
In the middle of this scene?
Possibly.
Yeah.
He is a bit histrionic at times. The question of what this play is doing, we still haven't really determined what the mode is here.
Yeah, but the audience have got to have sympathy with somebody.
Yeah, right.
The actors.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is worrying the hell out of me is the body of Feliche hanging over him at all. I don't care for it.
Do you think maybe, though, like when Pandulpho asks if he can take him down, I know Piero doesn't actually say, oh, yeah, okay. But maybe he does anyway. Maybe when he gets all defiant and stroppy, maybe he just cuts him down and sticks him under his arm and, charges off with him.
Or they've got a winch system and it just gets lifted out of the way.
Right.
Okay, let's see where the rest of this act goes, because we are approaching the end. So, as the additional characters enter onto this scene, so Mellida's hand has disappeared, and enter Piero and Strotzo.
He grieves. Laugh, Strotzo, laugh. He weeps. Hath he tears? Oh, pleasure. Hath he tears? Now do I scourge Andrugio with steel whips of naughty vengeance. Strotzo, cause me straight some plaining ditty to augment despair.
Exit Strotzo.
Triumph, Piero. Hark, he groans. Oh, rare.
Behold a prostrate wretch laid on his epitaph thus. Ne plus ultra. Oh, let none outwoe me, mine's Herculean woe.
A song within. Exit Piero at the end of the song, and causing much despair, this ditty in theory. Enter Maria.
May I be more cursed than heaven can make me, if I'm not more wretched than man can conceive me. Some forlorn orphan, what omnipotence can make thee happy?
Oh, now, sweet son, good youth, what dost thou?
Weep, weep.
Dost naught but weep, weep?
Yes, mother, I do sigh and wring my hands, beat my poor breast, and wreathe my tender arms. Hark ye, I'll tell you wondrous strange news.
What, my good boy, stark mad?
I am not.
Alas, is that strange news?
Strange news. Why, mother, it's not wondrous strange. I am not mad. I run not frantic. Ha! Knowing my father's trunk scarce cold, your love is sought by him that doth pursue my life, seeing the beauty of creation, Antonio's bride, pure heart defamed and stowed under the hatches of obscuring earth. Pero quo labor, quo voter, yeah.
Enter Piero in the nick of time.
Good evening to the fair Antonio. Most happy fortune, sweet succeeding time, rich hope. Think not thy fate a bankrupt, though.
Oh, the devil in his good time and tide forsake thee.
How now? Hark ye, prince?
God be with you.
Nay, noble blood. I hope ye not suspect.
Suspect? I scorned. Here's cap and leg. Good night. Thou that wants power with dissemblance, fight.
Exit Antonio.
Madam, oh, that you could remember to forget.
I had a husband and a happy son.
Most powerful beauty, that enchanting grace.
Talk not of beauty nor enchanting grace. My husband's dead. My son's distraught, accursed. Come, I must vent my griefs or heart will burst.
Well, that went well for Piero there. Exit Maria.
She's gone, and yet she's here. She has left a print of her sweet graces fixed within my heart, as fresh as is her face. I'll marry her. She's most fair, true, most chaste, false. Because most fair, 'tis firm I'll marry her.
Enter Strotzo.
My lord.
Ha! Strotzo, my other soul, my life. Dear, hast thou steeled the point of thy resolve? Wilt not turn in edge in execution?
No.
Do it with rare passion, and present to thy guilt as if 'twere wrung out with thy conscience gripe. Swear that my daughter's innocent of lust, and that Antonio bribed thee to defame her maiden honor, on inveterate hate unto my blood, and that thy hand was feed by his large bounty for his father's death. Swear plainly that thou chokedst Andrugio by his son's only egging. Rush me in whilst Mellida prepares herself to die. Hold her about thy neck, and with such sighs, laments, and applications lifen it, as if impulsive power of remorse.
I'll weep.
Aye, fall on thy face and cry, why suffer you so loud a lewd a slave as Strotzo is to breathe?
I'll beg a strangling, grow importunate.
As if thy life were loathsome to thee. Then I catch straight the cord's ends, and as much incensed with thy damned mischiefs, offer a rude hand as ready to gird in thy pipe of breath. But on the sudden straight I'll stand amazed, and fall in exclamations of thy virtues.
appalled by agonies and penitence.
Thy honest stomach that could not digest the crudities of murder, but surcharged, vomitedst them up in Christian piety.
Then clip me in your arms.
And call thee brother, mount thee straight to state, make thee of counsel. What not, what not? Think on't, be confident, pursue the plot.
Look, here's a trope. A true rogue's lips are mute. I do not use to speak, but execute.
And he lays finger on his mouth and draws his dagger. Exits.
So, run headlong to confusion. Thou slight-brained mischief, thou art made as dirt to plaster up the bracks of my defects. I'll wring what may be squeezed from out his use, and good night, Strotzo. Swell, plump, bold heart, for now thy tide of vengeance rolleth in. O now, tragedia cortunata mounts, Piero's thoughts are fixed on dire exploits. Pell-mell, confusion and black murder guides the organs of my spirit. Shrink not, heart. Capienda rebus in males precepts via est.
And he exits, ending the act. A plot that is not at all over complex. So, Strotzo, what we're going to do is you're going to make this confession. You're going to be so despairing. You're going to put a noose around your neck, and you're going to ask to be killed. And at the last moment, I'm going to turn around and say you're going to be fine. Have we been here before? We've been here in Tamburlaine the Great with Olympia and Theridamas in reverse, and we've been here in the last-minute death defying feats of escape in the Spanish tragedy. This is turning up a lot, isn't it? I can't be and what I love is that Strotzo literally says, "Here's a trope."
Yeah.
You can't get more meta than that. Pursue the plot. Here's a trope. Oh, I love it. Poor Strotzo. I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure Strotzo will be fine.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
We'll turn out fine.
There's no
you can
precedent
trust
for-
Piero,
Yeah.
I mean, he seems all for it anyway, so...
Yeah.
Well, I think we've already established that to succeed in this court, you don't actually want to be intellectually over-endowed.
Well, yes, Piero has literally said he doesn't want anyone who can think. And Piero's really enjoying this planning, isn't he?
Yes.
Now he's really gone into this vein. He's just, and I could do this, and I can make people do that. It's so much fun.
Yeah, he's a puppeteer, isn't he? I think that's possibly a clue to exactly what's going on. It's him showing how much power he can wield, how he can puppeteer the various factions.
But he doesn't need to do any of it. I mean, this is the thing. He's got. What's his motivation for any of this?
I think he's just enjoying himself.
Yeah.
No, he wants to take over Florence. He's in command in Venice, but he also wants to take over Florence and Genoa.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, it's all part of the Venice-Genoa rivalry.
Mm.
Can I just say though, like, after Mariah leaves and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to marry her. It's like, what? Talk about not taking no for an answer. I know Helen and I raised a Jane Austen parallel the other day, but like Mr. Collins, he has a Mr. Collins moment there. It's like, she's just saying that because she likes me really, and she's bashful.
But he doesn't. Yeah. So Simon.
No, I'm going to say I think it's just more. It's more for the fun of it. This kind of a sick game. It would be great if I knock off her husband and then marry her. Brilliant.
Well, also he'll get Genoa as well if he marries her, won't he? Yeah.
It's rather refreshing actually, not to have to worry about the subtleties of character. you know, I mean, with some other playwrights, you have to worry about their characters and the subtleties of it, but there aren't any here.
I don't think that they're necessarily they are playing to the conventions, you know, and they are playing up, you know, who they are. They are playing their roles. They're not playing necessarily their characters, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, it does. Yes.
Okay, it was good fun though.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Okay, any additional thoughts before we crack on with Act 3? Okay, Act 3 also opens with another dumb show. So the cornets sound for the act. Enter Castillo and Forabusco, Alberto and Balurdo with poleaxes. Piero talking with Strotzo, seeming to send him out. Exit Strotzo. Re-enter Strotzo with Maria, Nutriche, and Lucio. Piero passeth through his guard and talks with Maria with seeming amorousness. He seemeth to reject his suit, flies to the tomb, kneels and kisseth it. Piero bribes Nutriche and Lucio. They go to her, seeming to solicit his suit. She riseth, offers to go out. Piero stayeth her, tears open his breast, embraceth and kisseth her, and so they go all out in state. After the dumb show, enter two pages, one with tapers, the other holding a chafing dish with a perfume in it. Antonio in his nightgown and a nightcap, very fetching, unbraced, following after.
The black jays of sworn night trot foggy rings about heaven's brow. 'Tis now stark dead night.
I won't do all 12.
Please don't. Is this St. Mark's Church?
It is, my lord.
Where stands my father's hearse?
Those streamers bear his arms. Aye, that is it.
Set tapers to the tomb and lamp the church. Give me the fire now. Depart and sleep.
Exeunt pages.
I purify the air with odorous fume. Graves, vaults, and tombs grow not to bear my weight. Cold flesh, bleak trunks, wrapped in your half-rot shrouds, I press you softly with a tender foot. Most honoured sepulchre, vouchsafe a wretch leave to weep o'er thee. Tomb, I'll not be long ere I creep in thee, and with bloodless lips kiss my cold father's cheek. I prithee, grave, provide soft mould to wrap my carcass in. Thou royal spirit of Andrugio, where'er thou hoverest, airy intellect, I heave up tapers to thee. View thy son in celebration of due obsequies. Once every night I'll dew thy final funeral hearse with my religious tears. O blessed father of a cursed son, thou diest most happy, since thou livedst not to see thy son most wretched, and thy wife pursued by him that seeks my guiltless blood. Oh, in what orb thy mighty spirit soars, stoop and beat down this rising fog of shame that strives to blur thy blood and girt defame about my innocent and spotless brows. Non est mori miserum, sed misere mori.
And the ghost of Andrugio rises.
Thy pangs of anguish rip my cerecloth up, and lo, the ghost of old Andrugio forsakes his coffin. Antonio, revenge! I was empoisoned by Piero's hand. Revenge my blood. Take spirit, gentle boy. Revenge my blood. Thy Mellida is chaste. Only to frustrate thy pursuit in love is Blaze unchaste. Thy mother yields consent to be his wife, and give his blood a son that made her husbandless, and doth complot to make her sonless. But before I touch the banks of rest, my ghost shall visit her. Thou vigour of my youth, juice of my love, siege on revenge, grasp the stern bended front of frowning vengeance with unpazed clutch. Alarum nemesis, blows up thy blood, invent some stratagem of vengeance, which, but to think on, may like lightning glide with horror through thy breast. Remember this, cella non usurus, nisi vinctis.
And exit Andrugio's ghost. Enter Maria, her hair about her ears. Nutriche and Lucio with pages and torches.
Where left you him? Show me. Good boys, away.
Gods me, your hair!
Nurse, 'tis not yet proud day. The neat gay mists in the lights not up, of the lights not up. Her cheeks not yet slurred o'er with the paint of borrowed crimson. The unpranked world wears yet the night clothes. Let flare my loosened hair. I scorn the presence of the night. Where is my boy? Run, I'll range about the church like frantic Bacchanal, or Jason's wife to tell me where. Oh, my poor wretched blood. What dost thou up at midnight, my kind boy? Dear soul, to bed. Or hast thou struck a fright unto thy mother's panting?
If anyone with better Latin than me wants to take this passage,
Yes,
please
I was just going to
feel
say.
free. Otherwise, you're going to get a sigh from me, not Antonio. Otherwise, I know. Old Cesar at the end is revenge. That's about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't know it, but I can say it.
Just say it then.
Thanks,
William be the stand-in Antonio, please.
Uncle William.
Stand in Latin. Okay. O quisquis nova supplicia functis, diros umbrarum arbiter disponis, quisquis ex eso jaces, pavidos sub antro, quisquis venture times montis ruinam, quisquis avidorem feros rictos leonum, et dira furiarum agmina implicitus hores, Antoniae vocem excipe properantis ad vos, ulciscar.
Alas, my son's distraught. Sweet boy, appease thy mutinying affectations.
By the astounding terror of swart night, by the infectious damps of clammy graves, and by the mould that presseth down my dead father's skull, I'll be revenged.
Wherefore? On whom? For what? Go to bed, good duteous son. Oh, but thy idol.
So I may sleep tombed in an honoured hearse, so may my bones rest in that sepulchre.
Forget not duty, son. To bed, to bed.
May I be cursed by my father's ghost and blasted with insensate breath of heaven if my heart beat on aught but vengeance. May I be numbed with horror and my veins pucker with singeing torture if my brain digest a thought but of dire vengeance. May I be fettered slave to coward chance if blood, heart, brain, plot aught save vengeance.
Wilt thou to bed? I wonder when thou sleepest, if faith thou look sunk-eyed. Go couch thy head, now faith 'tis idle, sweet, sweet son, to bed.
I have a prayer or two to offer up for the good prince, my most dear lord, the Duke Piero, and your virtuous self. And then, when those prayers have obtained success, in sooth I'll come, believe it now, and couch my head in downy mould. But first I'll see you safely laid. I'll bring ye all to bed, Piero, Maria, Strotzo, Lucio. I'll see you all laid. I'll bring you all to bed, and then, in faith, I'll come and couch my head and sleep in peace.
Look then, we go before.
And they all exit, and we have so many shades from the past. There is a little bit of Isabella. Do we feel possibly mixed with potentially another character from another play? We have a explicit reference to the old lost version of Hamlet with Antonio Revenge, because that's very much from a line we know is from the lost play, but doesn't make it into the rewrite. We have clock striking 12, black as night. and that dumb show.
Wow. Yeah.
All the tearing open his breast. So, is he successful there in the end? What's going on there? How unpleasant is that? Do we need to put a trigger warning in? Where are we with that? Thoughts in the room. Does the cat have anything it wishes to add? No.
His head then.
Yeah, thoughts in the room from that scene so far, because we're only halfway through. We've got a ghost. Always nice to have a ghost.
Are we to take it that Mariah has succumbed?
Yeah, that
seems to be the impression.
Yes.
At the end of the dumb show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like a weird magic, I guess, to go back to what you said, Robert, about the pressing. It's the seduction, isn't it? So it's very Dracula.
Well, rather than a cloak, it's just
yeah. It's Gary Oldman in full sort of theatricality.
Steak for dinner, sir.
Yeah, because it's so yeah, she does a little refusal, and then it's they all go out in state. Okay. So is the in state going a sort of is that a sort of a marriage? Is that almost in dumb? It's a big question there.
It seems to me that because the ghost, obviously, again, echoing a certain other play I'm sure we're all acquainted with.
Yes, the Lost Hamlet. Yes,
the Lost Hamlet, correct. If only we were all ghosts, we could see everything. But of course, this is what you should do. So I think ghost device obviously is just filling in the blanks for everyone, including Antonio.
It's a very insistent ghost, and it's an insistent ghost that prompts Antonio also to really do his Kidian verse impression here. The vengeance is so Spanish tragedy. I'll be revenged.
I will have my revenge.
It's very like that, isn't it?
Yes.
I didn't want to be the first to say that. I'm so glad you did. Okay, so any additional thoughts before we move forward where we are? I mean, with ghosts, who saw that coming? You thought you weren't going to see Andrugio, but no. And I think Feliche must have been cut down. I'm going to say by this point, I'm going to say the body must have been cut down.
Yeah.
Well, the scene has moved from outside Mellida's window to St. Mark's.
Yes.
So
the scene change is important.
Yes, we're in another part of the forest.
And they brought on some incense to clean the air a little bit as well. So
well, we're in another part of Venice.
Yes. Okay. Anything more from the room before we move forward and complete this scene? Because we have a new character entering in a moment. I don't think we've seen so far before. But Antonio, he's got a speech. So more speechifying, people.
I won't be offended if anyone goes and puts a kettle on. Aye, so you must before we touch the shore of wished revenge. Oh, you departed souls that lodge in coffined trunks which my feet press. If Pythagorean axioms be true of spirits' transmigration, fleet no more to human bodies, rather live in swine, inhabit wolves' flesh, scorpions, dogs, and toads rather than man. The curse of heaven reigns in plagues unlimited through all his days. His mature age grows only mature vice, and ripens only to corrupt and rot the budding hopes of infant modesty. Still striving to be more than man, he proves more than a devil. Devilish suspect, devilish cruelty, all hell-strained juice is poured to his veins, making him drunk with fuming circuitries. Contempt of heaven, untamed arrogance, lust, state, pride,
Murder.
I think we can go with both at the same time.
from
From
above
above
and beneath.
Murder!
I will murder. Graves and ghosts fright me no more. I'll suck red vengeance out of Piero's wounds. Piero's wounds!
And at the imposition of 2 ghosts, plus someone off stage just randomly shouting, he retires to the back of the stage. Enter 2 boys, with Piero in his nightgown and nightcap.
Maria, love, Mariah, she took this isle. I left you her here. On lights away. I think we shall not warm our beds today.
Enter Julio, Forabosco, and Castilio.
Ho! Father! Father!
How now, Julio, my little pretty son? Why suffer you the child to walk so late?
He will not sleep, but calls to follow you, crying that bugbears and spirits haunted him. And Antonio offers to come near and stabby, stabby, creep. But Piero presently withdraws.
No, not so. This shall be sought for. I'll force him feed on life till he shall loathe it. This shall be the close of vengeance strain.
Away there, pages, lead on fast with light. The church is full of damps, yet 'tis dead night.
Okay, I'm going to pause there, exit all except for Julio and Antonio, and I think that's absolutely right. Julio makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got this almost comedy précis of...
I think it would be Julio, because it should be Giu, I would have thought, if we were doing it now, if it was Italian. Julio. Yeah, I would say. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Just for clarity, who the heck is he? Because I don't think we've seen him before.
No.
Piero's son.
Ho, father to Piero. So I'm going to go with Piero's son.
Yeah,
Apparently, I'm Mellida's brother.
Yeah. The never mentioned before plot device.
Right.
Why does Piero have a son who's never been mentioned? Because he's only dramatically necessary now. He's been retconned into the whole narrative. And,
Cute little boy.
yeah. It's interesting. Antonio's repeating basically what Piero said earlier of going, I'm going to make his life hell before I do the killing.
This is where you lose all sympathy for him now, yeah.
But is this, have years passed and this is now Antonio's younger brother, Piero and Mariah's child? Is that what we're looking at?
No.
I like it. I like it. I don't think it is, but I think that's a great idea. That would make it even more twisted.
Well, because there was certainly a feeling I was getting from the earlier speeches was that Piero did not have a son, therefore he got no succession. So we're back to the succession issue.
So the dumb show is a time jump.
It's a time jump.
Ah.
Oh, I like that.
His son with Mariah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time passes.
Wow.
Time has passed.
Time passes.
And obviously 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, how long are we talking here?
Yeah, 'cause this is going to a tomb, isn't it? They're going to a long dead people.
Long dead Andrugio.
Yeah.
So it's Antonio's brother too.
Yeah, that's what he says. Brother Antonio, are you here at Faith?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh, this is worse. It's even nastier.
What?
He said with a delicious grin on his face.
Also, what's Antonio been doing for the last 6 years?
He's being an emo. It's what he does.
I mean, he's even less active than that guy who should not be named.
Well, I'm thinking the atheist tragedy here as well.
Talk about a procrastinator.
Yeah.
Yes. Hang on. If Piero is married to Maria, then the offspring of Piero by a previous marriage and the offspring of Maria by a previous marriage would call each other brother and sister.
Yeah.
Whether there was any blood relationship or not, the fact of the marriage of the parents, they would regard each other as kin, as siblings.
Yeah.
At this time.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely right.
So it isn't necessarily a real brother, Antonio.
Oh,
It
I
is
see.
feeling that way, though.
Like that, you mean?
yeah.
Or he's dressed like a monk, maybe in disguise, just like Daniel Craig in Elizabeth. Although he was a monk, of course. in
Yeah.
that film.
But it's I just love the sort of condensed thing of creeping up behind Piero. Dum, dum,
Yeah.
dum, dum, da, dum, dum, dum.
Panther.
I mean, the thing is that looking slightly ahead, the fourth line of the next stanza does seem to imply that time has passed.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Well, let's get to it.
Let's get some more
Let's get
evidence.
to
I
it.
think. I think
Yeah.
the point has been raised, and it's a delicious thought, and we'll find out if it's real or not, to our delight or disappointment further down the line. Okay. I think stand by for action. Anything can happen in the next few stanzas. Okay. Exit everybody except for Julio and Antonio.
Brother Antonio, are you here in faith? Why do you frown? Indeed, my sister said that I should call you brother, that she did, when you were married to her. Buzz me, good truth. I love you better than my father, deed.
Thy father? Gracious, oh bounteous heaven, I do adore thy justice. Venit in nostras manos tandem vindicta, venit et tota quidem.
Truth, since my mother died, I loved you best. Something hath angered you. Pray you, look merrily.
I will laugh and dimple my thin cheek with capering joy. Chuck, my heart doth leap to grasp thy bosom. Time, place, and blood, how fit you close together. Heaven's tones strike not such music to immortal souls as your accordance sweets my breast withal. Methinks I pace upon the front of Jove and kick corruption with a scornful heel. Griping this flesh, disdain mortality. Oh, that I knew which joint, which side, which limb were father all and had no mother in't, that I might rip it vein by vein and carve revenge in bleeding races. But since 'tis mixed together, have at adventure, pell-mell, no reverse. Come hither, boy. This is Andrugio's hearse.
Oh God, you hurt me. For my sister's sake, pray you do not hurt me. And you kill me, deed, I'll tell my father.
Oh, for thy sister's sake, I flag revenge.
Revenge.
Stay, stay, dear father, fright mine eyes no more, and cleaves his heart. Is that a stage direction, do you think? And cleaves his heart, as in, should that be me now
It
turning
could
on
be.
Julio?
It
Because that
could
doesn't.
be. It's a good question.
I would say, fright eyes no more. Come, pretty tender child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
yes, it looks like that's the striking point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there is no stage direction I see.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've got stabs further on. So
Oh yeah. Oh well. And cleaves.
unless
oh,
he's,
well,
it could be
And
saying it
cleaves
as
my heart.
almost a stage direction and cleaves his heart. No.
Yeah. Come, pretty tender child.
While we are
I just back up.
paused, Julia does say, "Truth since my mother died." So,
Right,
that
so-
means it must be from a previous marriage.
True. True.
Right.
Which is a
Yeah.
shame.
I know.
Julia doesn't know Latin. I think it would be fair to say, because
I should have been
Antonio's just
playing
going
that one.
revenge, revenge. He's going, poor child, poor child. And the ghost, of course, doing the background noises, spurring him on. You can almost hear the hoofbeats in his mind as he winds himself up to do it. Okay, Antonio, let's build to the end of the scene.
Come, pretty tender child. It is not thee I hate, not thee I kill. Thy father's blood that flows within thy veins is it I loathe, is that revenge must suck. I love thy soul, and were thy heart lapped up in any flesh but in Piero's blood, I would thus kiss it. But being his, thus, and thus I'll punch it. Abandon fears, whilst thy wounds bleed, my brows shall gush out tears.
So you will love me, do even what you will.
Now barks the wolf against the full-cheeked moon. Now lions half-plain entrails roar for flood. Now croaks the toad and night crows screech aloud, fluttering about casements of departed souls. Now gapes the graves, and through their yawns let loose imprisoned spirits to revisit earth. And now, swart night, to swell thy hour out, behold, I spurt warm blood in thy black eyes.
And he stabs Julio from under the stage, a groan.
How not, thou pottery mould? Groan not, ye graves, be dumb all breath. Here stands Andrugio's son, worthy his father. So, I feel no breath. His jaws are fallen, his dislodging soul is fled. And now there's nothing but Piero left. He is all Piero, father, all. This blood, this breast, this heart, Piero, all. Whom thus I mangle. Sprite of Julio, forget this was thy trunk. I live thy friend. Mayst thou be twined with the soft embrace of clear eternity. But thy father's blood I thus make incense of to vengeance. Ghost of my poisoned sire, suck this fume. To sweet revenge perfume thy circling air with smoke of blood. I sprinkle round his gore and dew thy hearse with these fresh reeking drops. Lo, thus I heave my blood-dyed hands to heaven, even like insatiate hell, still crying more. My heart hath thirsting dropsies after gore. Sound peace and rest to church, night ghosts and graves. Blood cries for blood, and murder craves.
So, you've murdered your fiance's brother. That's going to go down well.
Right.
This is so unnecessary, yeah.
That escalated. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, he's really going for it. He's you know, and I don't think he can claim that he's having a moment of madness. It's all very calculating.
We've got very eye for an eye now, but it's taken the eye plus the other eye and the nose and the ears as well.
Yeah.
And he's going for the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah. I think there's no sympathy now for Antonio at all. It's very Vikings.
How old is this child? Probably quite young.
He's about 5, 6. Yeah. Mother, he hath killed me.
Yeah, it's very much. It's really modern. It's like in horror films or something when they utilize a child to kind of show how terrible this person can be.
Well, I mean, Derek's been saying during the week, the Tarantino vibes, and I think he was definitely thinking of this play when it came to that. That heightened sense, use of music, and just completely random, possibly unnecessary violence. Additional thoughts?
Was the child played by a child?
Yes, almost certainly they're all played by children. So the child is being killed by a child of varying age. So this is Children of Paul's play. And the space itself is not going to be very big. I mean, that's the other thing when we were talking about the Great earlier. This space is tiny. The audience isn't very big. And so some of the action that's going on is going to be very compressed. The ghosts there are coming from from various different places, hidden away. It's a really interesting question. We don't really know precisely what the dimensions and the shape of this space were, but the general sense of it is it's not big, and it's so cramped that it almost feels like it's in the round rather than end on. That there's almost no, apart from entrance spaces, there isn't really a back wall that you're working from in the same way as with other spaces. Everyone's got very
Blackfriars, right? We're talking about.
Oh no, Paul's.
No.
Oh, this is Paul's. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
So it's almost in a circle.
So what's the theater then that the boys are playing at?
It's the space they have at Paul's, St. Paul's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we can go into a bit more detail tomorrow, but I think it's a very tight space. We're only fitting 100, maybe a few hundred people at most, but probably only about 100. It's very small. That's why the cabaret vibe feels so connected to this. You know, the audience is right on Ponyu. They believe that there's 2 playing spaces for musicians above the stage, left and right, and that's possibly where the ghosts come in. And that there might still also be a sort of central position as well above, and then 3 entranceways, and that's about it. I've heard lots of different opinions as to what the space was precisely like, and we don't really know because we're not quite sure which room or space or how it was built or how it was structured within the rest of the complex. So there's a lot of speculation. Anything else before we finish the act? One more scene to go, I think. Okay. Nutriche has got a speechette coming up to open the next scene. Bit of a change of pace. Act 3, Scene 2, Chamber of Maria. Enter 2 pages with torches. Maria, her hair loose, still loose. Nobody can get close to her hair, obviously, moving around a lot. And Nutriche as well.
Fie, tomorrow your wedding day, and weep. God's my comfort. Andrugio could do well. Piero may do better. I have had 4 husbands myself. The first I called Sweet Duck. The second, Dear Heart. The third, Pretty Pug. But the 4th, most sweet, dear, pretty, all in all, he was the very cuckold of a husband. What, lady? Your skin is smooth, your blood warm, your cheek fresh, your eye quick. Change of pasture makes fat calves, choice of linen, clean bodies, and, no question, variety of husbands, perfect wives. I would you should know it. As few teeth as I have in my head, I have read Aristotle's Problems, which saith that women receive the perfection by the man. What then be the men? Go to bed. Lie on your back. Dream not on Piero. I say no more. Tomorrow is your wedding. Go, dream not of Piero.
Enter Balurdo with a bass viol.
What idle pride thou keep'st! Good nurse, go sleep. I have a mighty task of tears to weep.
Lady, with a most retort and obtuse leg, I kiss the curled locks of your loose hair. Duke hath sent you the most musical Sir Geoffrey, with his not base, but most ennobled viol, to rock your baby thoughts in the cradle of sleep.
I give the noble Duke respective thanks.
Respective. Truly a very pretty word. Indeed, madam, I have the most respective fiddle. Did you ever smell a more sweet sound? My ditty must go thus. Very witty, I assure you. I myself, in a humorous passion, made it, to the tune of my mistress Nutriche's beauty. Indeed, very pretty, very retort, and obtuse, I'll assure you, 'tis thus. My mistress' eye doth oil my joints, and makes my fingers nimble. O love, come on, and trust your points. My fiddlestick wants rosin. My lady's dugs are all so smooth, that no flesh must them handle. Her eyes do shine, for to say sooth, like a new snuffed candle.
Truly, very pathetical and unvulgar.
Pathetical and unvulgar. Words of worth, excellent words. In sooth, madam, I have taken a myrrh, which makes my nose run most pathetically and unvulgarly. Have you any tobacco?
Good signor, your song.
Instantly, most unvulgarly, at your service. Truly here, to the most pathetically rotten...
And there's another song. I love this. I love this sequence. So a bass viol, it's not quite a double bass, but it's not a instrument you would use for romance. Right. So you know, I think if in your modern production he came on with a double bass and was sort of doing boom, 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 look at my wonderful playing, and then sings the most inappropriate song ever, you get the idea of what is going on in this scene is that Balurdo's been sent to do some wooing by Piero, you know, on his behalf, and he's just rubbish. And then Nutriche is doing Rosaline things from the first play. She's doing a list in very Rosaline fashion. And even though it's clearly a different character, they're very different positions. But there's something very weirdly connected there. Fiddlesticks and nimble fingers, everyone.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Well, I was wondering about the Rosaline connection because Balurdo says he made the song for Nutriche.
Mm. Yeah, Balurdo seems to be wooing anyone, doesn't he?
I get the impression he's a bit desperate.
Yeah. I mean, we've just seen a child murdered, and we're in this.
Yeah.
It's a shocking change.
I think shock and awe is what he's playing with, isn't it? Yeah. That's what the playwright's doing. Deliberate contrasts. We don't know what the next song is. The next song might be good.
I have grave doubts.
Well, it's that question of, you know, it might be that the other musicians play a good song in contrast again, rather than him. And randomly asking for tobacco, you know, got a light.
You got a light, boy?
Hello, B.
Middle of a love scene. Okay, let's complete the act then, I think. A song. Helen.
I feel that Balurdo has a small notebook and he's constantly writing down these words that other people hear.
He has a commonplace book.
Say. Yes, a little commonplace book. He's making a note and then using them.
I think that was explicitly stated actually in an earlier scene. He wrote down something.
Yes, and a not uncommon practice among people who then wrote down things possibly wrong. And then come out with delicious nonsense later on. That's a dramatic technique that gets a character trait that gets turned out a few times in some plays that we will not mention. Okay, song completes. Maria and Balurdo still together.
In sooth, most knightly sung, and like Sir Geoffrey.
Why, look you, lady, I was made a knight only for my voice, and a counsellor only for my wit.
I believe it. Good night, gentle sir, good night.
You will give me leave to take my leave of my mistress, and I will do it most famously in rhyme. Farewell, adieu, said thy love true, as to part loth. Time bid us part, mine own sweetheart. God bless us both.
Exit Balurdo.
Good night, Nutriche. Pages, leave the room. The life of night grows short. 'Tis almost dead.
Exeunt Pages and Nutriche.
O thou cold widow bed, sometime thrice blessed by the warm pressure of my sleeping lord, open thy leaves, and whilst on thee I tread, groan out, alas, my dear Andrugio's dead.
Maria draweth the curtain, and the ghost of Andrugio is displayed, sitting on the bed.
Amazing terror! What portent is this?
And, disloyal to our hymeneal rites, what raging heat reigns in thy strumpet blood? Hast thou so soon forgot, Andrugio, our love band so quickly cancelled? Where lives thy plighted fate unto this breast? O weak Maria, go to, calm thy fears. I pardon thee, poor soul, I shed no tears. Thy sex is weak, that black incarnate fiend may trip thy faith that hath o'erthrown my life. I was empoisoned by Piero's hand, join with my son to bend up strained revenge, maintain a seeming favour to his suit, till time may form our vengeance absolute.
Enter Antonio, his arms bloody, bearing a torch and a poignard.
See, unamazed I will behold thy face, outstare the terror of thy grim aspect, daring the horrid object of the night. Look how I smoke in blood, reeking the steam of foaming vengeance. Oh, my soul's enthroned in the triumphant chariot of revenge. Methinks I am all air and feel no weight of human dirt clog. This is Julio's blood. Rich music, father. This is Julio's blood. Why lives that mother?
Pardon ignorance. Fly, dear Antonio. Once more assume disguise and dog the court in feigned habit, till Piero's blood may e'en overflow the brim of full revenge. Peace and all blessed fortunes to you both. Fly thou from court, be peerless in revenge. Sleep thou in rest. Lo, here I close thy couch.
I apologise, I missed that exit, Antonio. And exit Maria to her bed, Andrugio drawing the curtains.
And now, ye sooty coursers of the night, hurry your chariot into hell's black womb. Darkness, make flight. Graves, eat your dead again. Let's repossess our shrouds, while lags delay. Mount sparkling brightness, give the world his day.
Exit Andrugio, who is corporeal enough to be able to close curtains.
Yeah.
And is he following his wife into the bed in a chamber there? I'm just putting a slightly strange thought out there. An incubi as well as a ghost. Okay, so we've got the sexual politics goes horribly wrong there, doesn't it? We've had a few. Piero hasn't exactly had the nicest of opinions of intelligence. Why can't you be stupid like a woman was basically what Piero said earlier, which as he's the villain we can sort of skim past. But then there is something quite unpleasant about some of the sentiments ranged there. Thoughts in the room on anything? It doesn't have to be that.
Maria has absolutely nothing to say to the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing terror. What portent is this?
Boom.
That's it.
And then she goes to bed.
Yeah.
Oh no, a ghost! Better go sleep.
Yeah, and her son comes in,
The ghost
covered
of
in
my
blood.
husband as well.
Yeah.
Dead husband, son covered in blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, nope.
I can have a nap.
Right.
And she just sits there with her mouth open.
I don't know. I think there's been occasions where people have come in from the pub and whoever's in the house has just gone, no, that's it, I'm off to bed. I'm leaving you to it's that kind of... Lock the door and switch the lights off on your way up to bed. I'm not getting involved. Yeah. So again, we have this comedy sandwiched with these dramatic moments and these intense dramatic moments that are on the verge of parody. And the question is, where do they fall? What is the audience? The audience mustn't have a clue where to react, do they? That's almost the point, is that the audience doesn't know which way this is falling all the time. Or am I wrong? I mean, do tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, the cast haven't got much idea, so got to help the audience.
I think, to be fair, you can give the cast a through line easily enough, but it is really harder what the effect is.
This is just something about like man's folly, perhaps, is kind of the idea. Hence, all of the kind of difficult acts, perhaps, and that weird sort of through line of sort of marionetting in a way. It's very certainly there's lots of stuff that doesn't quite tie.
But it's sort of consistent in its inconsistencies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
There's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it's that these plays are incredibly derivative, but they're also, that's why they're unique. I must find the reference to that. I apologize. I'm quoting someone, I can't remember who. I mean, there's also talking about these as a two-part play. You know, if the Spanish tragedy was the Spanish comedy and the Spanish tragedy, and, you know, this is Antonio's comedy and Antonio's tragedy. And yet, even when we're in the comedy, we're not always sure that it's a comedy. And when we're in the tragedy, we're not 100% sure whether it's a tragedy. And this playing around with genre is so interesting.
Yeah, I think what Derek said is becoming more and more a thing, isn't it? That because Tarantino does that. He makes you laugh at times when you're not sure if that was the right response.
Any other thoughts? Because we're into extra time now, so we're moving to wrap up. There's 2 more acts to go. How do you think it's gonna end?
Badly.
Who do you think survives?
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Not placing bets.
Nobody.
Oh, nobody. Everybody dies.
No, I think Pandulpho is going to come good at the end.
I hope so. I hope he does.
I rather care for Pandulpho. Was that his name? Pandulpho.
Pandulpho, yeah.
Pandulpho. Yeah, I see him coming in at the end with and telling everybody to clear this place up.
A mass of Genoese mercenaries that he's hired on his way out of Venice.
Absolutely, and you know, somebody haul these bodies off the stage.
I think Balurdo's going to make it too.
You think he's going to make it?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's too stupid not to. I mean,
That'd be nice.
Yes, the stupid ones tend to survive. It's sort of that I Claudius thing of by you know, extenuating your stupidity, you can survive this murdery court.
Balthazar didn't, though, did he?
No, but he was a bit doomed from the off, really, wasn't he?
Doomed.
Doomed? We're all doomed.
Okay, because we've mentioned Tarantino, we mentioned character, and we've mentioned, I think I'm just going to end this little session with this alleged story about the playwright himself, and give you this as little food for thought before I go into any very final last thoughts that everyone has. So this may not be true. It's something someone noted in their diary in November 1602, which is about the time this play was probably written. It looks like it was written a couple of years after Antonio and Mellida, at least. So John Marston, the last Christmas when he danced with Alderman Moore's wife's daughter, a Spaniard born, fell into a strong commendation of her wit and beauty. When he had done, she thought to pay him home, and told him she thought he was a poet. "'Tis true," said he, "for poets feign and lie, and so did I when I commended your beauty, for you are exceedingly foul." So I'm throwing that in there as the kind of provocateur that Marston is thought of, shall we say, in the world. Whether that's true or not, or whether that's just an anecdote about Marston, it's not necessarily a very nice one. Someone pays him a compliment and then he just says, "Well, yeah, you're ugly," is not unlike some of the wit that we have in the time. But I just wanted to leave that there hanging like an unpleasant odor over your opinion of what the playwright is all about. And there. Any final thoughts before we go into housekeeping and close this off?
Well, I think one thing that I'm sort of reading around this thing also is that he's following very much in the tradition of the Senecan tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that Senecan tragedy is all about people standing up and giving hellishly long speeches and no development of character whatsoever. And that seems to be what's happening throughout the two plays that we've read so far. So, but it is really sort of foreshadowing the revenge tragedies that are coming up. 'Tis Pity She's a Whore, Duchess of Malfi, so yeah, I mean, he's definitely of the time. I'm not sure whether I like him. Sometimes he has a turn of phrase which I just go like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. But then that's it. Which is again another hallmark of Senecan tragedy too. It's about the words, and it's about the words, but they're still just words, and they're empty, and there's nothing behind them. It's not pointing to anything of substance that we like much. I'll stop talking.
Any other thoughts?
My personal thought, this isn't particularly academic or insightful, but like with the first play, at the beginning was such a tangle. It was such a mess, like a really fun, chaotic, anarchic mess. But it just, as I went through it, I found that it kind of managed to ravel itself together. So I sort of got into it more as we went along. With this, I'm finding it's the reverse. I started off like, oh right, yeah, okay, this is quite, I was engaged with it. I was kind of in there with the characters, and this just seems to be unraveling as it goes along, because I now have no clue what's going to happen or who anybody is anymore or where it's going. So it's kind of the reverse of the previous play in terms of the way I'm experiencing it, which is fun.
Yes. I don't find myself that there is that much connection between the two plays, except some overlap of character. The overlap of the cast list. Because it seems to me that what you have is a perfectly reasonable comedy. Then there is a demand, we've got to have a tragedy. So he picks up the characters that he has already created and puts them in a tragedy. Because what happens at the end of the first play is directly contradicted by the actions of the first scene of the second play. I mean, I don't see them as a unified whole.
Well, I don't know if I fully go with that, because the end of the last play was playing with conventions of comedy that everyone's going to turn out fine at the end, and the resolution at the end of the play was so artificial and forced that I feel almost the beginning of this is a really good counterpoint to this. The big opening of this play is very artificial and forced. Of I am just being evil. Here are all my plans. Da 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 da. Because the closing of Piero and the end of the last play, when he is tricked almost into forgiving Antonio. I mean, in any other play, he would just then go, yeah, tough and dead. It's purely convention. You said it. You've made your oath in public. Therefore, you must stick with it. And he's got away for half an hour and gone, now I'll just kill them in private. Dead. So I don't wholly. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I'm sort of. It's interesting dancing around these thoughts. I'm liking this.
But so many comedies, if in fact the end was very, very slightly changed, whatever it is that gives them a happy ending. So many of them could have been tragedies. In fact, pretty much all of them could have been tragedies. And a very unnatural happy ending is by no means an unusual thing in the drama of this period.
Oh no, but I think that's why he's doing it. Why he's making that point. Tamara, any final thoughts?
I mean, other than I think possibly more than Hieronymo and the Spanish tragedy, this one really works as a two-parter, I think, because you can see the like we said, the unnatural ending as a trap instead to get us into this play. But
Alan, I keep forgetting to come to you because you're invisible.
Because I can't wave at you,
yeah.
yes. One thought actually has just occurred following up on what Helen was just saying about how things could be either comic or tragic. It just reminds me of a much later piece of literature, Thomas Hardy, Return of the Native, where about 50 pages from the end there is a footnote in which Hardy writes, "The book as originally planned ends here. At the insistence of my publisher, I've added the following. Readers with an austere moral context will make decisions about which is best." And at that point, there is a real downer. I mean, Hardy didn't do cheerful that well. And that remark has stuck with me for the last 40 odd years since I read that book for the first time. And the other one that occurred to me was throughout the scenes where the two ghosts appear, for some reason the imagery of Ruddigore was going through my head. If anybody else knows it,
Yes.
where I've got a film somewhere which was Vincent Price as the bad baronet, and when the ghosts night howl.
I think that works actually very well. Veronica and Simon, any final thoughts from either of you?
I find it very disturbing, especially that it was played by children. It's very violent and very sexual at times. And considering that these were choir boys, I don't know if the playwright is using that and trying to distort the idea of, I don't know, Christian children innocence. I don't know, but just the image of it, like when reading through the script and imagining seeing these children play it out, for me, I would start laughing, but then I'd think maybe I shouldn't be laughing. I don't know.
It's really interesting with the Edwards boys with their staging of some of these, and I've seen them do the Malcontent, which is another Marston, which is very very similar to elements of both these plays. It is genuinely quite disturbing, actually. I find it very very disturbing at times. These plays performed across age ranges and considering how you are not on the most sexual of these texts. Some of the stuff we had in the first play was really quite gross, and it's a genuine double image of what's happening in the play and the thing you're actually being presented with. I think it is. And there's actually something very disturbing about it. It's a really good point. Simon, sorry.
I was just going to say, to kind of allay your kind of fears a little bit, Veronica. you've got to understand as well at the time that theatrical convention would have actually excused a lot of this, because of course you would get theatrical device rather than a Tarantino-esque bloodbath. As you know, there would be something symbolic to show, which would make it less horrific, which is how you can kind of excuse a lot of the slightly more graphic stuff, and even the farcical elements that we would kind of look at now would maybe kind of assuage some of the content that we as modern viewers, readers, actors, etc. No, we would do differently, but then very much kind of the device would disguise a lot of it, if that makes sense.
Well, not always. They do blood. They did do blood. Something we didn't get in because we haven't done Cambyses yet. There is an explicit stage direction about pricking bladders and to release the blood everywhere. So it depends on what the company could be bothered to mop up, I think.
I mean, you've also got the situation, I mean, coming again much more modernly, Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
You know, where you're getting, kids in a state of nature are not that innocent.
Yes, I was going to say that having done certain extremely blood-filled plays with some quite small children, they gorier the better.
They love it.
They love it.
They do.
Roald Dahl made quite a good living out of it.
Yeah. On which note, I think I'm going to have to wrap up this session. Unless anyone has any bursting thoughts. Tomorrow we are finishing it all off. It's all going to end. I'm sure it's going to be delightful and happy. I'd just like to thank our readers today for all their wonderful work and their thoughts and their comments, and for helping steer the ship through these very, very interesting waters as we try and figure out what these plays are doing and what's going on. So I'd just like to say thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.